What's up, guys? Thank you for coming back for a new video. So today we are going to replace this GE dishwasher motor and sump. So these are one of the most difficult ones that you'll probably run into. Typically the one that is leaking is the motor sump. The motor itself. The sump ends up just kind of deteriorating and cracking, and it'll leak from there too, but you'll see it in a little bit. So with these, they're usually mounted on the side with some Phillips screws. Usually has a tab. Just remove them and you'll be able to get to the screw. If not, you'll probably have to remove this dish rack, which has 2 1/4-inch screws total, one on the left, one on the right. As soon as you remove them, you want to start shimmying that rack forward and backwards, and it'll just pop out. Just be careful with it, because sometimes they end up breaking the bracket that holds them. After that, you'll be able to actually get to those screws. And sometimes these have like a little plastic border to just remove the dead space on the sides. That's why you kind of want to pry it out. Try your best not to break that or bend that, because it will look ugly at the end. Now right there, what I'm doing is removing the air gap so I can have more room to pull out the dishwasher. It's just a lot of steps in order just to get to the part. So typically with that air gap, you'll see that black hose that's connected to your dishwasher. Try to remove that if you can't, because sometimes some plumbers glue that on there. Just leave it on there, and then try to remove the drain hose that's actually attached to your air gap if you want a little bit more room so you can pull it out. When you're pulling these out, depending on what type of floor you have as well, just kind of walk it out and don't just drag it out, because then you're going to leave some scratches on the floor. So right there, you just basically see me pulling it out maybe about 6 inches or so. First, what you want to do, if you don't have enough room to pull it out, is remove the water valve. This one has 1 connector and 2 5/16 screws. As soon as you remove it, that bracket will come down, and you'll have another connector in the back that's connected to your water valve, and 1 hose that's directly going into it. Really, what you want to do is just push it all the way back where it's not, you're not going to pull on it when you end up pulling out the dishwasher. And just be careful, because some of these water valves aren't completely shut, so it'll leak a little bit. So put maybe like a towel or some napkins under it so it can just catch most of the water, because if not, you'll just end up making a huge mess. So I'm trying to give you guys the best angles, but I was not going to be able to wear my headset because I was not going to be able to actually show you if I was recording through my headset on top of my forehead. So I'm moving my phone on 0.5 where you can try to see exactly what I'm doing. But also, when you remove that hose, there will be a little bit of water, so that's why you saw me get the vacuum, because I don't like leaving a big mess behind. And under the sink, just give yourself as much room as you can. Remember, you're going to be pulling from the water supply hose, the drain hose, and the power cord itself. The power cord and the drain hose are probably the easiest ones that you'll be able to give yourself more room to play with. But yeah, that's really much it. So that lower spray arm, you twist and pull upwards, and same thing, everything else is just kind of twisting off. Everything is just counterclockwise. That funnel, 1 1/4-inch screw at the very top, and the rest are clips. And then that one as well, it twists off, really. So right there, I'm marking where it's supposed to be, because sometimes when you twist them back on, they don't end up the direction that you need. You'll see me removing the filter casing. Try to remove everything that's in there, even though if you are going to replace the sump, because a lot of grime just piles up in there, and it won't let it drain out completely, and then over time it'll leave a little bit of a puddle. So I know it's not the best angle, but as soon as you start disassembling little by little, you'll start seeing everything that I'm seeing. So just with this one, take your time, because these are I'm not gonna lie, very difficult to actually work on if you don't know what you're doing. So after that, pull it out a little bit more. Like I said, I'm trying to give you guys the best angles I can give you. Right there you see the drain pump, the drain hose, the two terminals to the heating element, and you kind of see the motor in the front. But what you want to do is just kind of disconnect everything that you are going to be maneuvering around. And like I said, what I like to do is just removing all the water that's in the sump, or even in the drain hose and in the drain pump, because just trying to work around a big puddle of water is just going to be a no-go. Everywhere that you go, everywhere that you step, you're just going to be spraying the mess, and you're just going to end up with a bigger mess when you have to clean up, if this isn't your house. So you see that not much water is left in there, because I suctioned most of it out through the inside of the dishwasher after I removed the filter. Now after that, just kind of clean up. You'll start removing the drain pump, the clamps, the connectors, so on and so forth. But the thing that people mess up on these repairs is that the clamp that holds everything together, you don't have to press it down all the way completely, but try to remember where that clamp was positioned on the thread and try to mimic it, or go maybe 1 or 2 thread past it, and that'll kind of be your safest bet, where it's tight enough and it's not tight where you're breaking whatever you're trying to press on. So right there, that was a new kind of motor for me. I've never really seen this one besides maybe once, and that was a few years ago. This one has a magnet, and I think it works in unison with the drain pump when it switches over to draining mode. But you'll see the motor that they sent me wasn't the correct one, but I put them side by side so you can see. So everything is just basically held on by clamps. It's maybe about 5 total. So most of these are 5/16 the clamps. There are some that are 1/4 inch, but it's mostly just 5/16. And like I've said before, try to take as many pictures as you can with this one, because if you don't, you will not be able to put it back together. I promise you that. And do not mix up the clamps, because some of them are specific to size, and it'll look like you are tightening it completely and you can't go any further, and they're not supposed to be that way. They're supposed to leave a little bit of the thread where you can tighten it up even more. So if you're in that predicament, please check the clamp and make sure it's in the right position. So what's holding the motor is a bracket in the front with a 5/16 screw. It usually has a connector on there as well. These motors, you'll typically see them with a black solenoid, but this one doesn't have it, because it has its own individual drain pump. The solenoid on those other motors are just basically, the motor itself acts as a drain pump. So it just flips up the flapper on the inside and it just pushes the water out. But you see that little funnel that's on top of the motor, that one ends up cracking as well. But just look at that. That's all that gunk that ends up staying on the inside and just eventually doesn't let you drain out the water the way that it should. So if you already have it open, just clean it as much as you can. I think right there I left to go get the parts, but just kind of either pause the video or just take your time and see everything that I'm seeing. The sump is always something that ends up leaking after you think that you've tightened it enough. So if you have a Sharpie or very anything that you can mark where the clamp is at before you unclamp it, so you know where to clamp it to, how much you have to be twisting it. because if you are not twisting it to where it originally was and you're off maybe by one thread, I promise you it will leak and you will have to do everything all over again. So right there you see the one on the right is the new motor, but it doesn't have that setting where that little black magnet is. And sometimes they end up substituting it, but in this case I'm not going to use the new one because I know that black magnet is there for a reason, and I just can't leave the connector floating in there and not doing anything. So I'm just going to leave the original motor because that one wasn't the real reason why I was leaking. The sump itself was the one that was actually cracked. It ripped from the middle, and that's where the leak was coming from. And I think I show you guys right here. Yeah, just pause it if you can't see it right there. Yeah, right there. There's maybe like two or three different versions of the sump, where another one where you just have to like push it from the top to the bottom where it just sits on it. But this one, it has the filter pushing out of it where you actually can do everything from the bottom and you don't necessarily have to do anything from the top. So this one in a sense is slightly easier than those, but it's basically the same concept because it has a bunch of clamps. So right there, you kind of see me struggling with that clamp that holds the whole sump because it's already tightened up. So it's not going to have its original shape as once it was manufactured. So you kind of have to play with it in order to get in the position that it needs to be. So this is the part where you really need to take your time because if you don't push that sump in all the way up and you clamp it where it's basically flush, or not even flush, but it's pressing up against the bottom of the dishwasher, it will leak. It's very, very, very important that you take your time with this one because it will leak and you will start over and it's not going to be a good time. That turbidity sensor, be careful with that one because sometimes those end up cracking if you go past the point of where it needs to be threaded to when you're tightening up that clamp. It's just plastic. Remember, water and plastic don't mix well over time and it will get brittle, and if you put too much pressure it will crack. And obviously if things are not tightened, pressure will build up with more water in it and it'll start to leak as well. This is why I don't enjoy doing any of these, because every position things might leak and it's just bad news. Right there, you'll probably see me putting the sump in first. So just kind of pay attention how I start shimmying it into position. I haven't done one of these in a very long time. And that was specifically one of these, but it is slightly easier than the other ones. Let's see. So just kind of clear everything out, all that gunk, as much as you can. And then right there, you'll just kind of see me prying everything into position. And if I'm not mistaken, that filter casing should not move upwards if you keep on pushing with the sump towards it. So everything should stay in place. All you really have to do is just keep one hand pushing upwards at the same time while you're tightening it up. And always position your clamps where, even though you have everything put back together, try your best to position them in a way where you can still tighten them up if you need to. That's why I always have like a very small ratchet or even a small little bit where you can squeeze it in. Now, you do see me using my drill or my impact. I use it slightly only because I feel like it saves me a little bit of time, maybe milliseconds, but don't try to tighten it up with that all the time, because if you're not experienced, you will go past and you're going to end up stripping something or breaking something. So try to use your hand tools as much as you can. Try to only use it where you need to tighten it up to that point where you can switch over and use a flat blade or a screwdriver. Now, that's the turbidity sensor connector. After that, you have the one on the right, which is for your drain pump. And then that funnel right there, just be sure you leave that one on if you don't have to change it off. That one is the same thing, but this time you're going to be working against two things: the funnel, the little cone on top. At the same time, you're going to be pressing that sump towards your motor, where it's touching, it looks like it has fins on the side. Be sure the sump is pushed in all the way where it's touching those little fins. And I think the one that you should focus first on is the motor itself. Slightly tighten it up to the point where you can kind of leave it alone, and then switch over to the other one where you can just see where it needs to be positioned. That bracket that you took off in the beginning from that motor in the front will be important because it holds it in place right now. But that one, be sure you tighten it up as much as you can, because that one actually does need to be very tight, because all the pressure when the water comes in accumulates right there. It never leaves until it has to drain. So that one really has to be super, super tight. Now you see that magnet right there. That's the one that the new motor didn't have. So, and I know it has a purpose. It's just that I have not seen one of these in a very long time, but it looks like the function is just to basically allow the drain pump to open up more, because there's a little ball inside the motor, and it detaches as soon as, I'm assuming, power runs to it, and it just pushes that little metal ball that's on the inside, allowing more water to exit through the drain pump. So right there you see the same thing. Drain pump has to be pushed in all the way, and some of these sumps have little cuts where you have to push it in more on the inside, and I think that's where this drain pump has it. It has like a little bit of a gash where it sits in, but the same thing, just push it in where it's touching, and then start tightening it up as much as you can. Now after you have everything connected, for the most part, I think everything should be smooth sailing after this, except just double check everything right there. I think I'm just trying to align that little cone or funnel to the top. That last part that you twisted off, that's what actually tightens it up and holds it in place. And the reason why I marked it, like I said, is some of those, sometimes when you just want to twist it back on and you feel like you can't twist any longer, it's not really pointing in the direction that it needs to. So right here, I think you won't see me struggle, but you'll see this angle stay here for a little bit until I kind of get it down. So this repair took me about an hour to complete. So if the video is 25 minutes long, just imagine how long I was in certain positions just to, make sure that everything would be okay. And right there, I'm just verifying if there is no play, there is no tug, because if you can move it, it's gonna leak. You should not be able to move it. There should not be any sort of playroom with it. So after that, just be sure you put things down carefully, and remember, always take pictures to know where you started from, just in case you get lost. And put the same screws on where they belong, because they have different sizes for different reasons. Now all we have to do here is just reconnect the drain hose, and like I said, same thing, 5/16 clamps, really all around. And this one is just fairly simple, and believe it or not, this one was one of the easiest ones, because sometimes where the dishwashers sit inside, people that do tile, they don't go all the way in the back, so sometimes it's maybe about 3 inches further down, and you kind of have to shimmy it out without trying to break the cabinet or scratching the floor, and those are just a nightmare to even try to deal with. But you remember how I told you some of those water valves are not completely shut, so even when I tilted it over a little bit, you saw all that water that came out. Now be careful with these. You don't want to move anything that you just clamped on or change its position, so just take your time putting that water valve back on. Be sure that clamp is in the same place where you took it off from, because if sometimes you're off, it will leak. So just push it in as much as you can. Be sure that once you mount it on to the bracket, if you can't put in both screws back on, with one is more than enough. It won't fall off. but sometimes the little float sensor that's in front of it won't allow you to screw it in all the way. But right there, I believe I'm able to put it on both. Now, after you do this, you do want to put everything back on from the inside, because what tends to happen when you want to test it out, if you don't put everything back the way that it was and too much water is coming out and hitting the inner panel, the door, it might leak out from the front. So just keep that in mind. If you do test it and you see it leaking from the door, don't get scared. Just put everything back and everything should work out fine. So try to put back the insulation where it was. Use like a putty knife, a very thin one. It's just very, very easy. So right there, I think, if I remember correctly, it should be the easiest part. It's just working backwards. Right there, you see the very small upper spray arm fell at the very top. That one, remember guys, it has 1/4 inch screw that holds it in place, and the rest is just basically brackets. Everything is there. Now it's just putting the filter casing on, the other filter under the lower spray arm, the little mount that holds the lower spray arm, that's a little filter casing. Everything is supposed to fit perfectly. You're not supposed to force anything, so just remember that. That's to tighten and hold the filter casing. And that one, just put it back on, pushing down and twisting, and you'll hear it snap on. And just to be sure, just kind of turn it and push it up, and if it doesn't come out, then it's on correctly. Okay, now here, I think this is where I started to struggle, because you can't really see it here, but remember how you remove those 2/4 inch screws on each side? You have to basically put in the rack inside 4 separate holes, and you kind of have to go back and forth where they're aligning well, and then you'll feel it sit right in place, and then you're good to go. But this one, man, everything was so stiff. Like these rails were just not wanting to work with me. But you cannot let them get the best of you, because if you do, you are going to break one, and then you're not going to be able to complete this call. Well, if you are a new technician, but if this is your own thing, hey man, you'll still need to order those things, because you won't have an upper dish rack. So right there, you kind of see me trying to tug at it and play with it. But yeah, if you would put one in, the other one wouldn't really go in all the way, and then I would have to switch it over to the other side, and then yeah, I hate these racks. So just be careful. And I think it would have been a lot better for me if I would have just emptied it out, and I wouldn't have been working with such a heavy rack. So right there, everything is back into position. And like I said, guys, just kind of bear with me with these certain angles. It's just very difficult to record some of these at the same time if I don't have my little headset, because typically I just put my phone on like a little headset mount that I have, and it's like a bandana, and you just see what I'm looking at. But here it's different angles, different positions. Right there, sometimes it's very difficult to get those mounting screws back in the same place. But now that you have everything back inside, just be sure to pull the drain hose, the dishwasher drain hose, your power cord, and the water supply line. You shouldn't have to pull, because remember, you disconnected it and left it in the back, so that should be fine. After you put everything on, just be sure you kind of test it out and make sure that it doesn't leak. So right where I'm trying to shimmy, I think either the power cord or the drain hose. Okay, there you go. The air gap is back in place. I believe we're about to test it. But Also, if you're able to work with that air gap, just open it up sometimes and clean it out, because sometimes if it's too clogged, it'll leak from there or it won't drain out properly. Now it's time to test it out, and you should hear the dishwasher loading up with water, and we are going to see if it leaks. Well, I know it didn't leak, but just so you guys can know what's about to happen. Now, yeah, everything is running well. Try to do it twice just to be sure. Accumulate enough water where you're building enough pressure to really put it through the ringer where it's going to test well, and then drain it out. Let it drain out completely, because you can't really skip the drain on these. It'll get stuck. So just when these have a start and reset, the reset is basically cancel the cycle, and it's going to drain out. Let it finish until you don't hear it running anymore, then start it over again. But yeah, this is one of the most complicated jobs you can do out here. It's just very, very difficult. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate all the feedback. Just let me know what else you guys need help with, and I'll try to find the best thing that I can do. But until next time, peace.